There's no more natural user interface than a conversation. It's like just what our species is really used to. And that's what astonished me about ChatGPT is that kind of conversational UX. People who are not technical could do really technical things. I don't want to live in a world in which technical skill or access to money determines whether or not you get to participate in the AI future. That is a terrible world I don't want to live in. It's also an unnecessary world. There's no reason we have to live in that world. Go out there and like look at things that other people are building. Think deeply about your day and what are the things you do that suck, right? Like I hate being in meetings. And then just start with something that, you know, the stakes are low. It's easy to make things powerful. It's hard to make powerful things easy to use. And so this is my team's challenge and mandate.
Hi, I'm Greg Linnemanstons, president of Whiter Group. On this episode of the Changeover podcast, we're learning how AI agents are helping businesses of all types overcome labor challenges, improve efficiency and quality, and more. Joining me is Sam Mallikarjunan, our upcoming keynote speaker at Experience Inbound, Wisconsin's premier marketing and sales conference in May, which we host with our friends at Stream Creative. Well, Sam, thanks for joining me. I gotta say, I'm really excited about catching up, first of all, because, I mean, it's been going on 10 years since you were one of our speakers at Experience Inbound, and we're thrilled. Here I go. I'm going to plug it right off the bat. You're coming back this May to Wisconsin. We'll be warm by then, and excited to hear about what you've been doing most recently as part of Agent.ai, that you've joined up with Dharmesh. You're general manager there. Boy, what a place to be. It's like being at NASA.
The world really has come kind of full circle here. When we first talked, I was running HubSpot Labs for Dharmesh back in the day. Left HubSpot back in 2018, series of startups, including my own exit, et cetera. And now I'm back working with Dharmesh, along with most of the original HubSpot Labs teams.
Incredible. Fantastic. Let's go back. We like to do a little bit of then and now on this show, and take us back to when agents first started to appear, when they started to show up as parts of products that all of us are using all the time. When would you say agents first start showing up?
So to take an even slightly bigger step back, an AI agent versus just like the kind of AI and general machine learning that we're used to, the main differentiator is that it can take actions on your behalf. So it has agency in the literal sense, not the philosophical sense. Just like you'd have a buyer's agent if you were, buying a house or if you were buying stock or something like that, it can take actions on your behalf. Mm-hmm. The first real example that I remember that wasn't AI making a recommendation and then it asks you to do something, but it was actually Facebook's original dynamic creative tool where you kind of trusted the agent, the AI agent. We weren't calling them that then, but it's functionally what it was, to take actions on your behalf. So you fed it inputs, you fed it targeting, you would feed it training to let it know how it was doing, and it would decide, not you, what combination of creative and text and art and everything else to show a kind of a given user. So that was 10 years ago-ish, right, when they did that. In 2017, Google published a really boring research paper called Attention is All You Need, and that introduced something called transformers. It's the T in GPT, if people are familiar with ChatGPT. It was originally designed for translation. Most people forget that. But what it did was it got really good at understanding the context of content. So if I say a server, I might mean a waiter at a restaurant, or I might mean a computer server. And historically, like AI wasn't good at understanding why and like when it should do things, which is why you always had to have a human in the loop. So it would tell us, like, here's the analytics. Here's a bunch of data that we've crunched about your company and your customers or whatever. Now go do something. And over the past several years, what it's gotten really good at is knowing what it probably should be doing, because it's vacuumed up the entire internet. There are other ways to do it, but the way OpenAI did it was they vacuumed up the entire internet and every piece of content humanity has ever created. Yeah. So it can say, like, here's an email, and it can write the email. It can even send the email if you kind of trust it that much. So it's gone from, us kind of letting AI just decide, what ads to show people. It's very low, downside. You're unlikely to tank your business because you showed the wrong ad once to one person, to now very impactful decisions that it's starting to make. It's communicating with your customers directly. It's communicating with your employees directly. So that's been kind of the history from just analytics and machine learning through to our kind of first exploration as marketers with AI agents with Facebook ads, now to, who's real on the internet anymore, right? Like, I get so many messages on LinkedIn, I'm sure half of them aren't actually real people.
Yeah. I've actually, I was following a discussion on somebody's LinkedIn post, And it was questioning, how are we going to protect ourselves from all of the ping-ponging that's going to be going on between agents, and recognizing, how do you ferret out the human there?
Yeah, I mean, I think that will be a really interesting thing is you are going to have your own agent. And that actually is the AI in Agent.ai, right? Like we have a marketplace and its job is to know you really well and your job and your title, your company, your competitors, your preferences. And then based on what you're trying to do, it will decide what agents you should use. It'll feed them the appropriate data. And so it is going to be agents talking to agents, and they have different incentives, right? So I might have an agent whose job is to sell you something. You might have an agent whose job is to make good purchase decisions, just like we would under a normal, me talking to you kind of scenario. But your agent is going to get all the information from my agent and from everybody else's agent. It's going to synthesize that, help you make that decision better. So I don't think it's an issue if agents end up taking a lot of the emails and PowerPoint presentations and recorded sales demos and everything else like that, and taking a lot of that work off of our plate and just doing that with each other until they can figure out what decision should it recommend and what should it decide. So there's definitely going to be some ping-ponging, but I think that's a feature, not a bug, because that means that we don't have to.
And the assumption is that ping-ponging is adding value, and it's moving us or protecting us from the low value and saving our time for the highest human value.
Yeah, I spend a lot more of my time doing interesting things like podcast interviews and a lot less of my time in meetings and and status reports and that kind of stuff. Because I have agents that just attend the meetings for me and summarize the things that I actually would have cared about. So I didn't need to sit in a 1-hour meeting to get the 7 minutes of content that I would have found interesting. And, learning Spanish, getting better at chess and doing podcast interviews, do whatever you want with the more free time that you have.
Yeah. When did you start to realize, do you remember, was there a moment when you suddenly realized that agents are going to change the world, that this is a big deal? It's as big as the Industrial Revolution.
It's as big as the Industrial Revolution, but it's much faster. And it's happening globally all at once. The Industrial Revolution gave our species it was a boil the frog thing. It gave us a chance to adapt to what was going on. I remember when ChatGPT's first demo, and people forget that as well, by the way, ChatGPT was just a demo agent from a research company. It was never designed to be like a commercial application of technology.
Yeah.
But I was very much an AI doomer in the beginning. So doomers are people who think that AI is going to be bad for the world. AI boomers are people who think it's going to be good. And the first research paper that I wrote, actually for the HubSpot executive team back in 2022, I think it was, I was concerned that we were going to go from having millions of websites to having thousands of agents and dozens of orchestration agents. So kind of like the master agents that will determine your workflow. And I thought that would stifle innovation. I thought it would stifle creativity. I thought it would lock startups out of ecosystems. And not to put too fine a point on it, the reason I switched from being a doomer to being an AI boomer is because Dharmesh had this idea for Agent.ai. So instead of having to spend billions of dollars and having thousands of people to build an AI, anybody can now go build an AI agent. And you don't have to use Agent.ai, by the way. There's other things that do it. Agent.ai is just the one that's the most free because it's not the business model to charge people for it. And so now, it's not going to be a world in which you have your shopping AI and Amazon's your only option. You have your social media AI and Meta's your only option. That's not going to be the world that we live in. The proliferation of the ability to build all of these agents, I knew it was going to change the world when we first kind of saw the way transformers were working, the way AI was really generating stuff. But I thought it would be a worse world. And now I'm at least optimistic that it's actually going to be quite a better world when you have 3 people and you can launch a startup and you don't have to raise $10 million like I did.
Yeah. You mentioned, as we were chatting before we started recording, you mentioned how fast the user group is growing. And if you go to Agent.ai now and you look at the number of agents, it's shocking that it's growing so fast. What's causing this or making the conditions so good for the proliferation of anybody with an idea can build an agent?
There's no more natural user interface than a conversation. It's just what our species is really used to. And that's what astonished me about ChatGPT is that kind of conversational UX. People who are not technical could do really technical things. So I love to tell the story about, my local pub can't update menus on their website without me helping them. But they were able to build they use ChatGPT, actually, it's a very basic application, but they would just feed it whatever they wanted to get rid of, food and liquor or whatever. And it would generate recipes, give the recipes funny names, And they're doing inventory. These, again, not technical people, are doing inventory turnover optimization, to increase kind of their velocity. That would have made Amazon's logistics executives proud, 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And so for me, that is, I think, the number one thing is just that it's a very natural way for people to interface with computers versus clicking and pointing and typing code and everything else like that. And then you combine that with the fact that it's gotten just so much better and so much cheaper so quickly, right? Like ChatGPT 2 was like mediocre. It was kind of good. It was mediocre. Especially now you have these like focused AI models. Like you don't need to write sales emails. You don't need an AI that can understand like the works of Tolkien and Lord of the Rings and stuff, right? It's not necessary.
Yeah.
And so now that they're making them more focused, it's one of our core theses, by the way, is that cost is going to continue to go down, performance is going to continue to go up. So charging for it makes absolutely no sense. It would be a really dumb thing to do. And then the biggest challenge that we have is how do you continue to make it accessible for people who aren't technical? Right? You shouldn't have to know how to write code. You shouldn't even really have to understand what APIs are and everything else like that. You should just say, I want it to, every morning I want to get an audio, this is a really AI agent I have. Every morning, the AI goes to my Google Calendar. It looks at all the people I'm meeting. It uses Clearbit and some other stuff to enhance, who they are, checks their LinkedIn posts, etc. And then it generates an audio overview for me. So when I go for my morning walk, it's like, here's who you're meeting today. Here's what you should talk to them about, everything else like that. I haven't written code in a decade. I haven't written code that anybody's used in almost 2 decades. And I was able to build that without kind of having to bother my engineering team. So the ease of use, kind of like the WYSIWYG CMS, what you see is what you get CMS, it opened up the internet of content for everyone. You didn't have to be technical to be part of the internet when that was created. And kind of agentic AI and these AI agent studios that people are building, I'm seeing very much the same thing happening. You went from having a small number of websites and you had to spend $20 million to build pets.com. Now you can do that with a $20 a month subscription to Squarespace. Now, it's the same thing with kind of AI agents. We've really made it accessible to people and much faster than we did with the internet of context is accessible.
So what advice are you giving to marketing and salespeople on building agents? Because it sounds like there's no impediment, there's no barriers, your own creativity.
Yeah, the biggest impediment is the blank page problem, right? The blank canvas. Everybody that I talk to, they're like, what can I do with AI agents? It's such a hard question to answer because the answer is a lot. It can be straightforward, summarize my day, draft an email, analyze the data for me, etc. It can be quite soft skills oriented. So I have a friend of mine who has just some communication challenges and struggles, and he uses AI to rewrite his text messages to his family and friends to just try and communicate better. I think the biggest piece of advice I'll give is don't take the lazy way, which is how do I spam more efficiently at scale? Right. And that's what most of what we see today is, right? Like LinkedIn is nonsense. Email marketing is insane. SEO is insane. And it's because everybody's trying to, instead of taking this technology and say, how do I spend more time engaging in human interactions with my customers or giving my people more time to think deeply and creatively, they're instead just saying, like, how can we write 2,000 blog articles a month? And that's just a race to the bottom. So the number one piece of advice I'd give is figure out your own blank canvas thing. So there are sites like there's an AI for that.com, Agent.ai has a bunch of examples, et cetera, where you can just go see what other people are doing and then build one that's just for yourself personally. Like one of our first builders before we opened it up, they built a Dungeons and Dragons AI, which is apparently quite a complicated thing. There's these books you need to read and there's all kinds of stuff that I don't know about. But it was apparently quite time consuming. And once he was able to build one for that purpose, he then understood AI agents better and could start building ones that are more interesting for sales prospecting and customer research and product design and all those kinds of things. So get inspired, go out there and look at things that other people are building, think deeply about your day and what are the things you do that suck, right? Like I hate being in meetings. And then just start with something that, the stakes are low, right? Like if that AI agent hadn't worked out for him, he would have been able to be okay with it. I think right now, we're all worried that it's not going to be perfect. We're not going to build it perfect. We're not going to use it perfectly. And then it's going to do something that's going to get us in trouble. And so take a step in between there. Again, going back to the CMS example, back in the day when you got a job at HubSpot, your first task in new hire training was to use the CMS to build your own website so that you could understand what people were doing.
Okay.
And I built because I was new to Boston, I had moved from Florida. I built a Boston food blog website, right? But that is how I learned how to use HubSpot as a platform. The website's dead, nobody cares about it now. Wasn't the purpose of it. But it helped me then understand when I'm talking to thousands of other brands, here's how a content management system works.
Yeah. So how does a person who's never built an agent, never written a line of code, how do they go to Agent.ai and become an agent builder? Because they have some ideas, but they don't have any background as a builder. How do they do that?
Yeah, it's a very complicated process. You go to Agent.ai and you click
I think
on
you're
the button
joking.
that says builder. Yeah, I'm joking. No, again, this is one of the adages, right? It's easy to make things powerful. It's hard to make powerful things easy to use. And so this is my team's challenge and mandate, is the technology is not the issue. The user experience is the issue. And it's why my favorite thing that we've done actually is launch a community. So if you go to community.agent.ai, it's a separate login. We'll sort that out eventually. But that's where everybody is sharing their ideas. It's so much like the early days of the app marketplaces. I remember sitting there chatting on forums with people who were building apps for Android and iOS in the mid-2000s. And
Wow.
There were the technical people who kind of understood what to do. There were the non-technical people who understood what was worth doing. And you have very much that same situation now, where you've got people who are building AI agents but don't necessarily know what might create value, or people who have problems but need some help to kind of connect those. So I think for anybody listening, if you remember the mid-2000s and you remember what it was like when you could look at every new app that came out every single day. I used to check every day to see what was new.
That's insane to think about that.
Yeah, exactly. Join the community, join the conversation, talk to those people, and just understand that nobody else knows any more than you do. I don't know more than you do, right? But I am smart enough to go ask people and share ideas and talk.
Yeah. If they don't know where to begin, what should they do this week? What could they do this week to get them prepared to go to Agent.ai and start experimenting?
Go use agents. Use something somebody else has built.
Oh, that's a good idea.
What you will inevitably find out is you don't like it. You're going to go use like a LinkedIn post generator AI agent or something like that. You're not going to like the output. You will then know, here's what I don't like the output. Here's what I wish it could do. Then you'll click the little button that says builder, and you'll customize the agent to do it in kind of your better, more focused context.
So you can take somebody else's agent and modify it to how you'd want it to work?
Yeah, so when you build an agent, you can either keep it private for yourself, which is what most people do, which is totally fine, or you can make it public and share it, which I think over 1,000 agents so far in the last 30 days have been shared publicly. And then those you can take and you can customize it. So if there's an interview prep agent, but you want to have it be interview prep, and this is a real story, interview prep for executive searches in Scotland, you can then take it, feed it that context, give it examples of good and bad, and customize it. So it's another thing I really love about the community, the ecosystem, just the world, right? It's not turning into this dystopian siloed thing. People are sharing what they built, and people are sharing what they're learning. And I think just go start playing with stuff, find out what you don't like about it, and then that will help you figure out what you do want to build once you start understanding what already exists and what you don't like about it.
Yeah. So your message is you got to dive in. You got to come there with something on the canvas, something that you want to get some help doing. Invite your AI assistant to do it for you. And there's no downside. You don't have to do any preparatory training. You don't need any other technology. One site, you can do it all there.
Yeah, the downside is the opportunity cost of not being involved. And this is going to be a pretty significant portion of my theme when I talk at Experience Inbound is, when we think about the Industrial Revolution, generations of your family could go by without you having to figure it out. When you think about digital transformation, you still had like a couple of decades. You could go take, a class at Harvard on digital transformation and figure it out. I am not going to be creating a course to teach at Harvard for this because it's all moving so fast, right? You can't wait for somebody to tell you what the answer should be, for somebody to build that beautiful, easy solution for you. You're not going to be able to, you can go get a certification in it, but it's immediately out of date. So I think the biggest thing is the mind shift from I'm going to kind of like ease my way into things to, like you said, there's no downside. Jump in with both feet, build a bunch of agents. I have a bunch that I've started and that kind of sucked. And so I didn't finish them, didn't publish them. But the bigger threat to our careers, to our businesses, et cetera, isn't that AI is going to replace us. It's that somebody who's using AI is going to come kick our butts.
I heard Paul Raitzer say that same thing. So you just made me think the idea that you need to jump in, you can't wait, and you can't take a class at Harvard. You can't wait for Harvard to have a class on this. What's this going to do to higher education? That the world's moving so fast, they can't possibly keep up.
That's a really good question. And I've been talking with the faculty at some universities about that. I think it will be net positive. And the reason is that, one, educators spend a lot of their time on really boring, dumb work, grading papers and that kind of stuff. So one, can we free up teachers to kind of spend more time and have more of that deeper level of education? But access to educational content has not been a barrier for probably 15 years, right? You launch Wikipedia, you have edX.org and stuff like that, right? That's not why you go and take a class still. You take a class for the interaction between students, it is different when you're kind of in person. I also think that just AI teaching assistants, using AI to learn is my favorite way to use AI. So it was a couple months ago, I couldn't sleep. It was like 2:00 in the morning. And I was talking with, I think it was Perplexity, which is a specific AI company. And it was teaching me like these weird nuances of quantum mechanics. And 4 hours later, it's finally like, oh, I see what's wrong. In physics, you use the word force to mean this, and in this context, you use it to mean something else. And I was just confused about it. And so it helped me learn in a time when, one, like no teacher is going to sit there at 2 a.m. talking to me, and no teacher is going to sit there for 4 hours until they understand why I'm not understanding something. So I think it's going to be, not only is it going to get rid of all the really mundane work, but I think it's going to be incredible in terms of helping teachers understand what students need to get it. And I think that's going to be really cool.
So they're going to have to teach differently. And the learning process is going to be different. It's going to be, I imagine, more workshoppy, more hands-on, more live labs. And lectures, why would anybody want to sit through a lecture?
Yeah, who needs a lecture, right? Like, because lectures are so generic. You always have to, obviously I used to teach and things like that. You always have to somehow walk this fine line between not being so basic that you bore your smart students and not being so complex that your students who need more help get frustrated and get bored kind of in their own way. Yeah. And you end up with this very middling content. And it's one of the reasons why I taught a large class once and will never do it again. And I generally teach small classes because you can do those kinds of smaller groups and kind of really work with people. And so I think it's going to change education, just like it's going to change management and everything else like that. But I think it's going to do it in the ways we like. You're going to do less crap that you don't want to do. And then things are going to be more personalized. Yeah. Right? You should be able to get your own lesson plan. And again, just as a really stupid example, I built a chess AI coaching agent. So every time I'm done playing chess, right, it will go look at what I did. It will look at all of my chess coaches' videos, and it'll tell me like what I did wrong. What was I not getting from the stuff that he assigned me in that week? But then I still meet with the guy. I still meet with him, every Thursday morning at 9:30 or something like that for an hour, and we talk through stuff because AI can only mimic. It can't create, right? And so he can sit here and coach and really coach me, and AI can't do that. So I definitely don't see a world in which there are fewer teachers or educators. I see a world in which there are fewer teachers and educators who hate their jobs. And arguably, I see a world in which there are a larger number of teachers and educators because everybody can kind of participate in that, right? Without having to be in a lecture hall with 200 students.
Well, the way you described it, you almost need a better teacher-to-student ratio because the human insights need to be personalized, customized, situationalized.
Yeah, so when I say don't be lazy, don't be boring, not to bring this back to kind of the work, the business work that we do, you can build an AI agent that can make it live chat. Take this as an example. An AI agent can make it so that instead of handling 3 concurrent conversations, a chat agent can handle 30, right? Because it synthesizes the context and makes all that better. The boring, lazy answer is cool. You need 1/10 the number of live chat agents, right? That's the answer, frankly, we're all afraid of when we talk about job displacement with AI. The smart answer, and the companies that are going to win, are the ones who say, cool, we can keep the same number of live chat agents and have them be 10 times more impactful. Usually live chat is not a very helpful thing. Talking to my bank or anything else like that, it's so frustrating, the limited amount of stuff they can do. But they're on a clock, right? So now if a single, maybe you say cool, I'm gonna have the same number of live chat agents, but it's gonna be this incredibly customized, deep, contextually relevant experience for the user. They can know my job and my industry and everything else like that. That is going to be a better experience. So whatever the social interaction is, can you scale up the parts of that that are just hard for us cognitively. Some people are already doing this where they're using AI to write comments on LinkedIn. So they're involved in far more conversations, 10 times more conversations than they would have been a couple of years ago. They're able to do that versus, I think, again, the lazy answer is, well, how do I just like shout louder?
Yeah. I just had a thought that the example of a customer service chat, you end up attracting a better class of worker probably because you've made the job a lot more fun. You've made their capabilities more powerful and they can engage where they want to in ways that are satisfying.
I mean, if you think about what you've loved in your career, it's almost never been the really boring stuff that you're actually paid to do, right?
Yeah.
The stuff is, one, it's being able to have those kinds of impactful relationships. I mean, that's great. But two, being able to do things that are unexpected. She's actually a published author now, but we had somebody on the early team at HubSpot. Her name was Diana, and she taught herself CSS and jQuery so she could build slide-in CTAs, very new and novel back in 2013 or whenever she was doing this. And that was such a cool experience for her to say like, oh, cool, like I'm not a coder, but I can write code that does stuff and can have a positive impact on my team. And she had a lot of fun with that. And she, obviously got like a big bonus and stuff because of it. But now you can do all of that, but you don't have to learn how to code. She had to take all this time and teach herself like CSS and jQuery in order to have that impact. Now, like coders can understand economics, economists can write code and do kind of advanced data analysis. Sales teams can create decks without bothering the marketing team. We're still T-shaped professionals. You've got the deep experience thing that only you can do. AI is not going to do it better than you. There's not an AI that can write code better than our head of engineering with his fancy master's in AI from Columbia. But he can do like mediocre economics analysis. I can write mediocre code. I can do mediocre design. I can create mediocre music, which is like not a thing, not really that musical of a person. And so it's really gonna, the companies that attract that talent and the talent that's gonna be successful with it are the people who are really excited by being able to stretch beyond kind of the limited bounds of what they're actually paid to do.
That's a great, I'm gonna call it a almost closing thought.
We've got time left still.
Well, I got one thing I've got to ask you, though, because we're in the phase, we just put out the first call to action to sell tickets to Experience Inbound. What's your promise to people that you can tell our audience to expect from listening to you at Experience?
There's three things are going to happen when you come and we talk when I come up and visit y'all. I hope that I impress upon you the urgency and scare the crap out of the people listening so that they feel motivated to tackle this. Two, I hope I leave them with the confidence that they can, because it does seem incredibly overwhelming, even to people who are in this all the time. Then three, the main focus is going to be frameworks for understanding this. I am not going to tell you what to do with AI, because I want your trip to this event to be worth more than the 3 months in which whatever advice I give you is still going to be relevant. Instead, I'm going to give you frameworks to understand how the technology works in general. What does that mean for what you can do? Again, even relatively basic things. It's really good at translation. Awesome. Does that mean that you can now provide customer support in a bunch of other languages? There's all these frameworks for thinking about how this can change your life at work and your personal life are the things that I really want to share with people that I want them to get out of it. So you're going to be motivated to do it. You're going to believe you can do it. And you're going to have a framework for processing and understanding the world as it continues to change incredibly fast over the next several years. Everybody's overwhelmed. I mean, nobody understands the implications. Nobody really understands how this is going to change our lives. And I think that's another really big thing is it's easy for the talking heads on LinkedIn to make you feel dumb and to make you feel intimidated because that's how they make money, right? Those thought leaders then, charge you for consulting and whatever because you think you need to pay them. In reality, they don't know more than you do. I don't know more than you do. I'm just paid to spend more time thinking about it when it comes to kind of artificial intelligence and agentic AI. So I think that's, another big takeaway is like, it can feel overwhelming. Start small, focus on the things that matter to you, focus on the things that really annoy you all day long, and then you'll grow into it. Don't wait for somebody to tell you here's the right way to do it, because by the time they tell you that, they'll already be wrong. And by the time you implement whatever they've told you, it'll already be out of date.
So how does somebody go about, I was on Agent.ai today. I found out that I have 100 credits on my account. How does somebody get credits to try agents that they're interested in?
Yeah, so it's the biggest controversy on our team. Credits mean nothing. We don't charge for them. They're in there as a placeholder for future monetization.
Okay.
Because we assume people will build agents and then they'll want to make money off of the agents they built, just like with mobile apps. And so we actually hid credits. For the most part, you shouldn't be able to find them in your profile because I will just give you more. You can hit me up on, what I'll do is I'll create a coupon code called WIDERT. And if anybody actually runs out of credits, it'll just top you off.
Wonderful.
Because they're there because we know that in the future, people are going to make a living building and customizing AI agents. Just like, HubSpot spent billions of dollars making HubSpot easy to use, and still the majority of people require somebody else to help them use it or use it on their behalf. Same will be true with AI agents. So anytime you're running out of credits, just shoot us a note. We'll top you off. In the future, you'll be able to use credits to reward people who build agents that you like, just like you do with a mobile app or anything else.
Oh, fantastic.
In fact, the least creative way you could use Agent.ai is just to get access to all the premium features from Anthropic and ChatGPT and everybody else without having to pay. Because we pay. Every time you use it, we're still paying to run that AI. But we don't want to charge for it because I don't want to live in a world in which technical skill or access to money determines whether or not you get to participate in the AI future. That is a terrible world I don't want to live in. It's also an unnecessary world. There's no reason we have to live in that world. There's only a small number of very large companies that have an incentive to build that world. But right now, it's more of the citizen developer approach where people just want to build stuff that people like and they want feedback. They want to be able to play around with these tools. So yeah, if you run out of credits, by the time this episode's published, I'll hit up our head of engineering right after this and we'll create a wider coupon code. And if you enter that,
wonderful. I think I'm excited about you delivering that message that says I don't want to live in that world message to our audience, because they're going to stop you and applaud, because that's a big fear that people have. We see the giants building the moats, building the walls, and it's wonderful to see there's some actors out there who that's not your interest. You're going to give me goosebumps sitting in the audience. I can see it coming.
There's a lot of people out there who share the same concerns, right? Things like impact on climate, which is great. We are planting trees to offset the carbon footprint from anybody who uses the platform. That was relatively easy problem to solve. There are things like, is the AI trained ethically? Which is why we're giving people options. You don't have to use, OpenAI's GPT models. You can use some that are trained on anti-biased data or, things where people were compensated. There are things like job displacement. So how do we make it so that AI agents that increase the economic value of the user are the ones that are rewarded and surfaced instead of ones that replace people? All of these things are things that we're actively thinking about. And I think it's what my team cares the most about and why we got together again, right? I mean, I was saying before we started recording, we have a lot of the early HubSpot executives who are working with us on this, who are kind of coming out of, I don't want to call it retirement, but coming out of not actively working on a bunch of interesting stuff, because we think that the future feels dystopian and it doesn't have to be that way. And if we're successful, it won't be that way. So it's a good feeling.
Wonderful. Well, again, thank you, Sam. It's been a pure joy talking to you today. And I can't wait till May 19th when we kick off Experience Inbound in Green Bay, I think is where we're starting. Green Bay and Milwaukee. So this has been fun, Sam. Thank you.
Thanks. I'm looking forward to it.
Well, I am going to dive in. I'm going to see what I can do. And the advice is first try something I'm interested in and then make it my own. Okay, well, thank you, Sam. I appreciate your time.
Thanks for having me.
It's been a real pleasure. Yeah.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
See you all later.
Thanks for joining us on the Changeover podcast. Remember to subscribe on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, Wider.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. Let us know what you'd like to hear about next time by messaging Wider Group on social media. Need to learn more about today's most effective marketing and sales strategies? Then you need to be at Experience Inbound, Wisconsin's premier marketing and sales conference. Join us on May 19th in Green Bay or May 20th in Milwaukee. Register now at experienceinbound.com. Thanks for watching.